Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Flavor and Fiction. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, Flavor and Fiction is a segment where I choose a book for my 2023 reading challenge. I give you a short review, and then I make a recipe that was mentioned in the book or that uses an ingredient mentioned in the book. So you get your flavor and your fiction. So this time the category was a book by an actor or an actress, and I chose Will by Will Smith and Mark Manson. And the recipe, first let me tell you how I got the recipe or like how I chose. So in the book, there is a story where DJ Jazzy Jeff has a cast on his leg, and somehow Will and another friend convince themselves that they can get this cast off by themselves without going to the doctor. So after using several butter knives and steak knives, and then trying to soak his fiberglass cast in a bathtub, which made it start enclosing around his leg, one friend who had a brain, he took the lid off of a can of beef stew and he used it to kind of like saw the cast off, because otherwise it sounded like Jeff might have lost his leg. So I decided that today we're going to make some beef stew in honor of DJ Jazzy Jeff. But before we get to the recipe, let's just talk about the book a little bit. And before that, let me just say happy Black History Month. Yes, it is February 28th that I'm posting this. But I get it in under the wire. I had so much planned for this month, but you know, life comes at you fast. So I just had a lot on my plate. I wanted to do at least 4 episodes of this, and this is the single episode in February that I'm doing. But thank you for tuning in anyway. So on to the book. You know, I don't do spoilers, but let me just say this. This is the single best memoir I've ever read. It narrowly just beat out Trevor Noah's Born a Crime memoir. I don't know if I like this better because I did the audiobook, and I don't normally do audiobooks, but sometimes it's needed. And this time, you know, he puts music in it, which just lifted the whole mood of it. And he's such a good storyteller that like hearing it in his voice, it really made a difference. So like Will Smith is one of those celebrities that we all kind of feel like we know because we've seen him on screen for so long. But really, you know, he hasn't really shared, I feel like until Red Table Talk, I haven't really heard him say too much about like his childhood or unpleasant instances in the past. So this was a real eye-opener. This is great. He talks about having this like overshadowing feeling of fear throughout his entire life, possibly starting with his father, who he refers to as Daddy-O. His father was physically abusive, but he also felt like he got so much from his father in like how to build brick by brick, literally. And just how the lessons that his father taught him, he carried throughout his life, and it really saved him in a lot of instances. So his father has been a very big presence in big moments in his life. So I don't want to just say, oh, like his dad was abusive, because that's not the end of the story. So he seems to be a very complicated character. He walks us through the moment when he discovered rap music and how much it meant to him, and meeting Jazzy Jeff and being so impressed by his talent and work ethic and how they came together, the meteoric rise and then fall and then rise again of his rap career. I loved hearing about, of course, the Fresh Prince days and how that opportunity came about, very interesting, and how it almost didn't come about, which is more interesting, and how that kind of led to him meeting Jada. And I love the story of their meeting and her first words to him. I'll leave that for you to hear. But it was cute. And really, I think what sets this memoir apart is how vulnerable he is. He really talks about his own shortcomings and how they've impeded him and how he's had to pick himself up or have had others help pick him up. One of my favorite anecdotes was when he talked about when he did Ali, how he turned down the offer at first because he didn't feel like he could do Muhammad Ali justice. And he didn't want to be the guy that messed up, you know, the Muhammad Ali movie for the world. It took Muhammad Ali himself requesting a meeting with Will to talk him into doing that. Like, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine saying no in the first place. But, you know, fear plays a big part in all of our lives, but it's just a matter of knowing when to put it aside. And he seems to be getting better and better about when to do that. And just to see like his growth in the book, because, you know, there are times where you feel like you have everything figured out. Things are going so well. You feel like you have figured out the formula to life. And then, bam, something comes along. And, you know, you're not guaranteed a smooth ride just because you feel that you've grown. So it was nice to see his account on like his personal lives, especially like through both of his marriages, the mistakes that he's made, and with parenting too, how that just brought a whole new level of fear into his life. So I just feel like this is the type of book, you know, like you'll laugh, you'll cry, that type of thing. I appreciate his honesty, even when it was like the ugly truth. And he has a way of weaving a story to make it really relatable and motivational to the reader. So yeah, if you enjoy memoirs, pick this one up. And like I said, I recommend the audiobook, which I rarely do, but I like it when it's read in the author's own voice, and it just depends on who it is. And this is the right person to have an audiobook, especially because of the music. I mentioned the music, right? It's really good. Okay, so now that I've sold you on the book, let's check out this recipe. I made the beef stew this morning. We have snow here this morning in New York. It's a snow day. It's a perfect day for a beef stew. This is my first time making it. I normally, like, my mom has made it a million times, but this is my first time making it. And I have a brand new Dutch oven that my parents got me for Christmas. It's from the Spice line by Tia Mori. And I'm going to have a link to that in my description in case you guys want one. I love it. When I took it out of the oven, it was a little dried out, because it said cook for 2.5 to 3 hours, and I did 3. I should have checked it at 2.5. So make sure that you do that. I'm gonna show you how it looked dried out. I just added more broth to it, and now it looks perfect and it smells so good. And I even have a biscuit in the oven, so I'm ready to taste this with you guys. So let me go grab a bowl and we will find out together how this came out. You wanna start with 2 pounds of chuck roast. You wanna dice that into about 2-inch pieces. And then you want to coat it in about 2 tablespoons of flour, just enough to coat it after you put on your salt and pepper. Don't forget that part. Then in your Dutch oven, you're going to heat up a little bit of olive oil, and then you want to cook the meat in batches. Don't cook it all the way through, just enough to brown it, and then remove it from the pot. And then you add in your carrots, your onion, and your minced garlic. And then you want to stir that around for about 3 to 4 minutes before you add in your potatoes. And your beef broth, about 2 cups, maybe a little more. And then tomato paste, 1 bay leaf, and then a couple tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then you want to stir this up and get all the brown bits up off the bottom. That's where all the flavor is. If you don't have any fresh thyme, just put in some ground thyme like I did. You bring that to a simmer, and then you put the meat back in. And then it's ready to go into the oven for 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay, it's been 3 hours, and we're gonna take the lid off of this thing together and see what's in here. Oh, heavy. Woo! Got a little dried out there, didn't it? Okay, so as you can see, it burned a little around the sides there, and it had gotten dried out, but the recipe said to leave it in for 2.5 to 3 hours. I did 3. I should have checked it at 2.5. I have just now added some more beef broth, and I'm going to let that just put the top back on and just let it sit. And let it all simmer for just a little bit more. I'm not putting it back in the oven. But yeah, got a little dried out. But it'll still be tasty, I hope. Okay, so here it is after it's been completely warmed through. And I'm really excited to taste it. It smells really good. Okay, here we go. I've got my beef stew, and I've got a nice buttered biscuit. And we're gonna give it a little taste. I'm gonna get a little bit of potato, a little bit of carrot, and a hunk of meat. Let's give it a whirl. Nice big bite. I don't know what I was worried about. It's delicious. That is really good. And half of my butter biscuit. Okay. Y'all gotta go now. Okay, so I'm gonna cut this short so I can eat my food while it's still hot. Just a reminder, in the description box below, I'm gonna have an affiliate link to the book, and I'll have a link to the recipe on Pinterest, and I'll have a link to, maybe an affiliate link to the Dutch Oven by Tia Mowry. So, thank you for joining me for this one and only episode of Flavor and Fiction in Black History Month. And be sure to tune in next time. Happy reading and happy eating.